Hey, first things first, listeners. Before we start the show, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports. Plus, a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. Now let's start the show. Hey. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. Obviously, when my daughter ran across, she has
she just dropped
my ear thing.
She can't blame her daughter. She can't blame her. Her daughter doesn't have a cell phone.
I did.
You can't blame your kid. She's sick.
That was classic.
You're not texting your kid.
Just come here quickly.
The show starts at the same time.
That it is not necessarily my fault.
Every day.
I am trying to both
you can't blame.
and do a show at
the
the same time.
kid on here.
And I can't hear
you
Nick.
text someone about a workout
I know, we gotta get going. Okay. All right,
Nick, did you see her face, Nick? Her face?
I saw the whole thing. Yeah.
Here we go.
Try to do television.
Embarrassing. Let's start in Tampa with the fallout from another shaky performance from Tom Brady. Stop. Sunday's Bucs lost to the Rams, where Brady had 2 costly interceptions, including one on Tampa's final drive, has sparked questions about this offense. Why isn't it working? Why does it stall in primetime games? Why not ask Bruce Arians? Here's the head coach on what seems to be plaguing Tom Brady.
I don't think it's a confidence problem whatsoever. It's just still it's not lack of trust. It's just lack of continuity within the offense of the whole picture. We've had the guys open. We just missed them. And there are times when coverage dictates you go to that guy. So I think we can do a better job of utilizing the deep ball in our game plan, more of or less of. So each and every week's so different. But when they're there, we need to hit them. We can't have them going off our fingertips, and we can't overthrow them. Other than the deep ball, I think he's getting confused a few times with coverage. That might be causing some inaccurate balls, but I don't see it at all in practice. We're not missing the deep ball in practice, that's for sure. So it's just a matter on Sundays hitting them.
All right, I can hear. I am back. Here we go. And I just listened to that, and I got to ask you, Brandon, are you buying what Bruce Arians is selling, that this is a lack of continuity for Tom Brady, and that's why he's having some problems?
100% is definitely chemistry and continuity issues, the same way as some chemistry and continuity issues in the Wolfe house this morning. This is classic. Look, there's a few things that Tom Brady can't control, Jenna. One of them is hitting the deep ball. You just heard Bruce Arians talk about it. We talked about it this week on our show. He has to be able to hit Mike Evans when he beats Jalen Ramsey. That could have been a difference maker in that ball game. He actually had him twice. Just throw him a good ball. And also, you had Gronkowski. You have wide receivers that can take the top off this defense, or they can make a play with you on those 50-50 balls. Read and simple coverage. I said this Tuesday. I said it yesterday. Those were mistakes that we wouldn't see Tua make. This is simple disguise. They look like they were in quarters. They rocked a 3. The safety overplayed it. You have to be able to see that. That's one of your biggest tendencies that you have in a 2-minute drill. Everybody knows you want to throw the seam ball. You go back to week 1 playing against the Saints. What was the pick that he threw? The seam ball. Mike Evans stopped. So obviously there's some chemistry, there's some continuity issues, but there are things that Tom Brady can control. Now, everybody's beating up on the Bucks. Everybody's beating up on Tom Brady. I was one of them yesterday. You got to hold these guys accountable. That's what makes sports in the locker room so great. Now, let's go to a few things that can fix this Tampa Bay offense. So let's take a look at it. 3 things I believe can get this offense in the right direction. Number 1, run the ball. You have an aging quarterback. Why did we run the ball 18 times? We should at least be running the ball 25 times, maybe even be pushing 30 times a game. They did that in New England. That's what made them successful. Run the ball. That's number 1. Number 2, you counter the run game with waggle and play action. What's waggle? Waggle is a max protection. You know, Nick talks about it all the time. Well, if he's playing against a team that has a pass rush, he's not going to play well. So what do you do to combat that? You go waggle protection. Now you have your stars on your team, your 3 wide receivers that can run 18-yard comebacks. They can run 9-yard stops. Tom Brady throws the 9-yard stop really well. They can throw the in-cut, post. They can run crosser, post. There's so much you can do off waggle protection, and guess what you also have? You have the back chipping and getting into the flat. It's always a good look. Check downs is good. Always go to the check downs. And the last thing you do is utilize Antonio Brown. They tried to do that on Monday Night Football, and it worked well at times. You put him in the slot, he ran looky. Looky is an option route where you run a slant or whip back out, Nick. But you have to run this offense from the inside out. That's what makes Tom Brady good. That's where he thrived in New England, not outside in. So you do the opposite by utilizing Antonio Brown, Nick.
Yeah, so that was very well done and very well laid out. I'm going to do a much shorter version of that. You got to coach around the quarterback. You got to coach understanding the limitations of the quarterback. Run the ball. Pardon me, run the ball. Yeah, because you have a limited quarterback. Max protect, waggle, play action because your quarterback can't get hit. And the Antonio Brown thing, I thought that was the one positive that came out of Monday night was it looked like Brady and AB are back on the same page. But Bruce Arians seems confused about why Tom Brady can look so good even on the deep ball in practice, yet in the games, he doesn't. Well, we're watching practice footage right now. What do you notice when we were showing it about Brady compared to all the other Bucks? That different colored jersey.
Call on me.
Wilds, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're not allowed.
Yeah, there you go.
Practice, you're not allowed to hit the quarterback.
Can't hit the
quarterback.
quarterback.
And in games, you can hit the quarterback.
Exactly.
Boom!
Good job, Wilds. Good job.
And
Gold
he knows
star,
that.
buddy.
So if Tom Brady, because that final pick he threw, he was not even pressured yet. But he knew, because he is such a cerebral player, that they had just taken A.Q. Shipley, his center, his backup center. A guy had been pressed into duty because Marpet was out, so he slid Jensen over the whole thing. Musical chairs on the offensive line. This guy they're putting in has no experience with him. And the guy he's up against is Aaron bleeping Donald. So he anticipated the pressure. Was like, I got to get this ball out of here. That's the problem here. And so I'm not saying Brandon's fixes won't help it or you can't work around it, but I know why he looks great in practice. Because he's protected in practice. In the games, he's not. And that, to me, you saw last year with his final year in New England, and you're seeing it a ton this year. His passer rating when pressured is 55. When not pressured, Wilds, it's 107. Like, that's the story right now of Tom Brady to me.
All right, you know what? I'm going to double down on Brandon's run the ball theory. And the best part about working with you, Brandon, is that you've opened my mind up about football. Because, you know, you've talked about diva wide receivers, and I thought diva wide receivers, you know, were very like, throw me the ball. But you're like, no, we actually want other receivers to get the ball, to get the coverage off us, and we also want to run the ball. So I don't think, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, you're asking them to run the ball a ton or turn into a running offense. But the last 3 games against the Saints, remember, they ran the ball 5 times. Then at the Panthers, they ran the ball 37 times. And Ronald Jones had that big 98-yard run. And then against the Rams, they ran for 18 times for 42 yards. So to me, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Brandon, I think that the wide receivers also want to run the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. We want to win. I mean, of course we want to catch the ball. That's what we get paid to do. But at the end of the day, you're paying Tom Brady to go win the game in those moments where he lost it on Monday Night Football. That's why you pay Tom Brady. That's why you bring in a 43-year-old quarterback. I'm not bringing him in, Nick, to throw for 350 yards. I'm not bringing him in to beat Tampa Tom in 2011 when he was the MVP. I'm bringing him in to make smart decisions. So when you see him throw a duck in the 2-minute drill to go win the game and it's picked off versus a simple cover 3 and the seam isn't even there, that's a problem for me. So that's where, I think they need to hone in on just running the ball and getting back to what he does well, Jenna.
Right. And quickly, this is what Coach Mangini said on the show yesterday. You're trying to change up this offense so much to make it work. You have a quarterback who's not much different than he was last year, and they built a system around him last year, and it worked. So why not maybe try to do the same thing in Tampa with Bruce Arians? We're going to talk a lot more about this still ahead. But I got a question for you guys. Is it possible for a 38-year-old quarterback coming off elbow surgery to be an MVP candidate?
Ooh.
Why, yes. Yes, it is. Big Ben's big year. It's next. It's First Things First.
Hey, First Things First listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to First Things First.
We gotta head to Pittsburgh, where Big Ben has looked just as good, if not better, than he did before elbow surgery, which sidelined him for all but 2 games last year. Steelers are 10-0. Whispers of a perfect season dancing all around them. Quieted only by Big Ben's comment this week that, quote, "We're not chasing perfection, we're chasing Lombardis." Nick, should Big Ben win MVP if he carries the Steelers to a perfect 16-0 season? Should that just be a gimme? They give it to him?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, no question. Every quarterback that's ever gone undefeated's won MVP. Oh, wait, that's not true? Oh, okay. Well, then I have to reconsider. 1972, the MVP was Larry Brown, running back for Washington. Not anyone involved with the Miami Dolphins who went undefeated. 2007, Tom Brady had arguably the greatest season up to that point a quarterback's ever had. He won MVP, he deserved it. He wasn't even unanimous that year. Brett Favre got a vote, and some would argue Randy Moss should have won league MVP that season. Big Ben once upon a time went undefeated. Did you guys know that? He went 13-0 one year for a Pittsburgh Steelers team that went 15-1. You know how many MVP votes he got? 0. The same amount of MVP votes he should get this year as we sit here today. The Steelers are awesome. They have a pretty good offense and an amazing defense. So if you're going to find a Steelers MVP, it probably should be from someone on the amazing side of the ball, not the pretty good side of the ball. They're number 4 in points, but they're number 21 in yards. And none of Big Ben's stats jump out at you. He's 15th in yards, he's 11th in rating, he's 18th in completion percentage. And so no, of course Big Ben, even if they go undefeated, as long as Patrick Mahomes keeps doing what he's doing, this should not even be a discussion.
It absolutely should be a discussion, Nick, and maybe the system is broken. And when you look at last year, the defense ended the season really good. And they found a way to finish 8-8. So maybe Big Ben is the difference maker. It seems like we are undervaluing W's in the NFL now. Like, you continue to devalue it with your Nick Wright tears that we'll look at probably in another 10 minutes or so. But Big Ben is the difference maker in this organization. Let's look at the first 6 games. He was playing some of the best ball of his life. He had 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, 109 passer rating. And then we had this week 7 letdown, meltdown, where everybody's like, oh, this is the Big Ben of old. This is what we expect. This is what we want to see from Big Ben. He's done it his entire career, turned the ball over, careless with the ball. But we forget that 2 of those picks wasn't on him. One was a tip pass. The other was a Hail Mary to end the first half. And then what has he done since then? Oh, just start playing some of the best ball of his life. So I think it comes down to Mahomes and Big Ben when you look at him getting his team in position to win a Super Bowl and also playing lights out. So I think you have to have this conversation, Kevin.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And I know you're looking at me and be like, this guy's got it together, got a nice head of hair, seems personable. Not true. Not true. I'm just a simple man with a small, tiny brain, like a malnourished mouse. And you know what? When I'm thirsty, I drink, and when I have to have an itch, I scratch it. And I also look at quarterback wins, just like the caveman that I am. And I know that Football Outsiders DVOA has the Saints third. Has the Steelers third behind the Saints and Bucks, and the 538 ELO has them behind the Chiefs and Saints. But the WILDES has them first at 10-0. And last year, they were 8-8. And what was the big difference? It was Big Ben. So I know we can debate the semantics of the word valuable, but if a team goes from 8-8 to undefeated, I think the quarterback of the undefeated team deserves recognition. So I still think it's Patrick Mahomes' award, Nick.
Bravo.
And just before Nick,
that's a good take, Nick.
You played some dirty pool. I got to address it because he's the king of stats. You played some dirty pool with the Dolphins because you know they platooned at quarterback. So no one went 14-0 because somebody broke their ankle. So that was a little dirty pool by you. I just want to point it out for the viewers.
Okay, well, that's an accurate historical point, and good job by you. I've got another accurate historical point. You know whose team also was 500 last year without their injured quarterback? The Chiefs. The Chiefs. They went 500 last year in the games Patrick Mahomes missed. And this year, they are 9-1. And I thought Brandon's graphic was really fascinating because what we're saying is let's just remove one game from Big Ben's statistical resume. That's great. Let's remove one game from all the quarterbacks.
One game doesn't make or break your season.
Well, without one game, Mahomes is also undefeated. So congrats to Patrick Mahomes.
Listen, we're talking about statistics. We're talking about we're talking about statistics.
I don't even care about that game.
How many teams have finished undefeated? How many teams have finished undefeated? It's almost like Russell Westbrook finishing with a triple-double. When you do things that doesn't happen in sports, you need to be acknowledged for that. And that's all we're saying is if he finished this season 16-0, it needs to be acknowledged.
It will be acknowledged. He will be known as a quarterback who led a team to going 16-0. It'll be acknowledged. It'll be on his Hall of Fame plaque. No doubt about it. But but statistically speaking, I think it is fair. Let's just throw out that Titans game. So that I was doing the math in my head. He has a 107 rating without that Titans game, 22 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's an unbelievable year. Is it as good as Patrick Mahomes, 27 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a 115 rating when you include all the games? No. Which is why, again, it's not a conversation. If the Chiefs had 4 losses, it would be.
It is a conversation.
It's one loss.
It is a conversation. We still got a lot of football left to play. We don't know how this thing is going to end up. If he finishes undefeated and he continues on this path, he's going to be right there in that discussion. Absolutely, Jenna.
All right, well, guys, it is the Thanksgiving Eve. This is the season of giving. Let us all get along, say we love each other, and get ready for a new unveiling of Nick's Tears, our gift to you. It is next. It is First Things First. At last check, it was Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., and you know what that means. Our show is on the air, which I found out the hard way, and it is time for Nick's latest NFL Tears. Nick!
Give the people what they want.
Alone on top, but after that, you got some changes. Talk us through it.
Don't show them yet. I have to prepare America for what's happening. we have some major shakeups, not only at the top, but also at the bottom. And I'm not trying to be self-congratulatory, but I think this is the best work the committee has done yet. All right, now debut the tiers, please. For the first time in a month, back on the tiers. The Jets. The Jets are back. Now, are the Jets back because they're good? No. But they are back because the Bengals and Jags are just as bad as them. Jets have actually shown some fight. So that, I don't know if you can read that. That says won't win again until 2021. Those three teams, good night, good luck. For the Bengals, you feel bad because it's Burrow's injury. NFC East stays the NFC East. Then, two unique tiers. New. One worse than record, one better than record. So Bears, Lions, Broncos, Patriots, they all have 4 or 5 wins. They are actually worse than those records. Now, Texans, Chargers, they're 3-win teams. They're better than their records, as are the other teams on the tier. Now let's get to the cream of the crop. The teams that actually matter. Zoom in on that if you could. Wild card contenders. You look there. But Raiders, Browns, Dolphins, Ravens, only 2 of those teams are going to make the postseason. The Bucks will make the postseason, but we know this is a wild card team, and we know obviously they can't win the Super Bowl. Then you go up a tier to the Achilles heel tier. What does that mean? Listen, Achilles, I don't know if you know this, was an amazing fighter, a legend actually. Unfortunately, he had one fatal flaw, as all these 4 teams I fear do. For the Bills, it's their quarterback. For the Colts, it's the quarterback. For the Packers, it's lack of toughness and run defense. And for the Cardinals, just a little too inexperienced. Now we get to the 6 teams that I believe are most likely to win the Super Bowl. Great at something tier. That Rams defense is terrifying. That Seahawks passing offense is terrifying. That Titans, when it's working for them, Derrick Henry plus the play action pass offense, terrifying. And then controversial, but we felt we had no choice. Co-number 1 contenders. How can you have co-number 1 contenders? Ask the WBA. It actually happens all the time. Steelers undefeated. Saints just won again with a backup quarterback. They look like if they can be that dominant when Drew Brees doesn't play, they deserve to be there. And then, of course, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. The champs remain the champs because they're the champs. So there it is. The committee is the proudest they've ever been of this list, Brandon. There are no potential issues whatsoever. I imagine Jenna can just do the tease because I think we're done here.
No, absolutely not. Wait, Jenna, hold up 1 second. No, the Pittsburgh Steelers need to be alongside of the Chiefs. There's a clear bias in your committee, Nick, and you need to weed out the person who is just tainting the whole committee. Why aren't the Steelers sitting next to the champs? You got to think about this, all right? The Nick Wright tiers essentially was the next evolution of the power rankings. We need to get back to the values of the power rankings. The constructs, the ideals of the power rankings were good. Now, I do agree with you. We needed the Knicks NFL tiers because it got kind of lazy a little bit, right? Like, it wasn't just about, oh, what team has the best record, but the thought. Yeah. The process of, look, the team is playing the best and they're undefeated. Like, they need to be acknowledged. And you refuse to acknowledge the only unbeaten team in the National Football League. For that, I think the Steelers need to be right next to the Kansas. They need to be right there. Go back to the ideals and the constructs of the power rankings, Nick, and also weed out whoever's diluting your committee.
Okay, first of all, besmirching the integrity or the values of the committee will not be stood for. And they're not here to defend themselves, so I consider that to be dirty pool. That's first of all. Second of all, thankfully this week, we anticipated this complaint. Both the Steelers and the Chiefs play massive primetime nationally televised games. So the Steelers, they take on the Ravens, have a chance to sweep the Ravens and really put the Ravens in a rough spot. And the Chiefs play, it looked like a bigger game when the schedule first came out. Now we know the team's very limited at quarterback. But the Chiefs play the Bucks on Sunday Night Football, and so that's a big one as well. So let's see how those games go. I've made a commitment that if the Chiefs get their second loss while the Steelers are undefeated, the Steelers will jump them. Thus far, that hasn't happened.
But,
and so the Steelers, the Steelers just beat the Jags.
So you have no
Can't
value.
give them a ton of credit for that.
Being undefeated holds no weight with you. That is a shame.
Holds some weight.
I mean, I'm starting to rethink. I'm starting to rethink the Knicks NFL tiers. I may want to go back to the power rankings. I don't like this.
Wow. Wow.
All right,
Quick
Wilds, let's bring
reversal.
you in here.
Wilds, what's your issue here?
Oh,
What's your
yes. Well,
issue?
good day, everyone, and good morning. Good morning, everyone, and happy early Thanksgiving. Elizabeth and I are
Here we
taking the
go.
children out to the countryside for pheasants and quail hunting, like everyone, I assume. So I'll make this fast so we can get on with the festivities. I, Kevin Wilds, would like to
I kind of
petition
love
yet
it.
again that the Colts move up a tier for the reasons contained henceforth. Reason number one.
It's like 3 weeks in a row.
Henceforth. The gravy
Nick, just
defense.
do
The
it
gravy
already.
defense that the Colts have are good at everything. They're second in total yards, fourth in passing yards, third in rushing yards, and fifth in points. The defense covers up anything. You can put them on anything and they'll be good at it. That's why they're called the gravy defense. Number two, the bolo tie confidence. You need confidence to wear a bolo tie. I
That's
myself wear
right.
an ascot most days. I take it off at 6 o'clock and put on a regular tie. Did you know Philip Rivers has only been sacked 9 times and pressured the least amount in his career? Well, it's true. That's why he wears a bolo tie, and that's why he's better than everyone realizes. Reason number 3, something I tell my children every night before I tuck them into bed in their pajamas. Ball security is job security, yours and mine. And I know you're thinking, ball security? That certainly could not be Mr. Rivers. Well, it is. Here's some stats to put in your pipe and smoke in the morning. There's only been 11 turnovers from the Colts. How can that be? Well, it's only 8 interceptions and 3 fumbles. So although we think that the Colts are turnover prone, they are not. So Nicholas, for those reasons, I demand that the committee once again move the Colts up a notch to contenders.
This is 3 weeks in a
Let me
row.
address
Good day.
He refuses to
address
listen.
this.
So
So by the way, the
Nick,
Colts,
just
the Colts
do it for
did,
him already.
They did move up a tick from AFC pretender, that tier doesn't
tick.
exist anymore, to the Achilles heel tier. Wilds, let me ask you a question, out of character, if I may.
Yeah, that's
I assume
out of character, sure.
I assume you read the Iliad, correct? You read the Iliad growing up, or you're at least familiar with it?
If you give me an Iliad quiz,
Okay.
I will probably get an A- on it.
No, I won't give you a quiz. I'm just listen.
Okay.
Achilles, which is where Achilles' heel comes from, was the greatest Greek warrior. He was the hero of the war, but he had a fatal flaw, as do the Colts. You said only 8 interceptions. That's the 6th most in the NFL. Now, it's not as many as Brady has, but it's still really bad. And you're like, only 11 turnovers. They've only played 10 games. A turnover a game ain't great. And so I
The
do
last 4
not,
weeks, he's been lights out.
unequivocally, which means a bad
but
one's
Wilds,
coming.
for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that means a
For
a
3
bad
weeks,
one's
Wild's
on
been
its
petitioning
way.
the committee.
Go ahead,
Because
Wilds.
the
Go
last
ahead.
4 weeks, Philip Rivers been playing amazing, right, Wilds?
This is true. This is true. Hold on. I've got to get, although I'm from the olden days, I do have a computer. Here's what the Dusty told me. In only 3 games, they've lost the turnover battle. So you can look at them and expect them to have a bunch of games where they're turning the ball over. They've only lost the turnover battle 3 times and they're 1-2. Now, as we move forward, maybe they'll lose the turnover battle in the playoffs and lose a game. But I think this just sort of stereotype that Philip Rivers and the Colts in general are coughing the ball up all the time is not true. I don't look at the difference. That's not quite true, but I'm trying to make the point. What's the difference between an interception and a fumble? You're giving the ball to the other team. So as long as the running backs don't turn the ball over, it kind of helps Philip Rivers out.
No, that's correct. I agree with you. That if you don't fumble the football, that obviously helps you in the turnover battle, even if you have a turnover-prone quarterback. Listen, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but
Nick.
I'm telling you, Jenna, when the Colts season ends, we're going to be on here and we're going to be showing highlights of Philip Rivers' pass followed by this. which is Phillip Rivers ripping off his chin strap and then yelling at people. Because that's how this season's going to end.
Phillip Rivers. No, that's not.
Okay.
That's not new Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
There is something that could potentially affect the tiers, though, whether it's the Colts or not. 3 games this week are going to affect the tiers in a big way. You got Ravens Steelers tomorrow night. You got Titans Colts. And then there's Chiefs Bucks. Nick, what needs to happen in these games for us to see some movement in the tiers?
Well, listen, for the Ravens are, hanging on for dear life, and now all of a sudden they're going to be without two of their best running backs against the Steelers. As promised, if the Steelers win and the Chiefs lose, the Steelers go to the top. The Bucks can reassert themselves if they get a win against Kansas City. And then you have Titans-Colts, which if the Colts win that game, then Brandon, I think Wilds is going to get his wish. And I almost moved the Colts up. I almost pushed the committee to move the Colts up just to dispatch of this character from olden days that Wilds insists on invoking when talking about them, because I find it so detestable. But the commitment to committee integrity demanded we just go with what our data shows us, Brandon.
That is why you're honorable.
Nick, please, can I add one game to your games to watch list?
Yeah.
The Jets versus the Dolphins.
No.
What?
The Jets will get their first win this weekend. The Jets will get their first win this weekend. Can we add this to your list, please? My Jets.
No.
Can't be.
No.
All right, Nick.
Unanimous vote, no.
You have the Bucks as wild card contenders. I wonder if they'd be higher had Brady played a little better on Sunday. We're going to dive into what's going on with Tom Brady. That's next. First things first. Good job, Nick.
Brandon?
Thanksgiving Day, college hoop season tipping off. Blockbuster on Fox. How about this? Number 1 Gonzaga taking on number 6 Kansas in what could be the biggest game of the year. It's Thanksgiving Day, 1 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. All right, let's head up north to Green Bay. Packers squandered a chance Sunday against the Colts to cement themselves as the team to beat in the NFC. Still 2 games clear of Chicago in the NFC North, but now looking up at the Saints and Rams in the conference. Somehow, though, Aaron Rodgers not affected by it, saying, quote, "I feel good about our team. I feel good about where we're at mentally." The old mental game. Brian Westbrook back with us. Brian, how much pressure is on the Packers to win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers this season?
Jenna, this is going to sound weird, but I don't think there's much pressure on the Packers to win the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I actually think it's much more pressure on Aaron Rodgers to win a Super Bowl with the Packers lineup, the people that they have on their team. In order to be in the upper echelon of when you talk about the best quarterbacks ever, you got to have multiple rings. And at this point, Aaron Rodgers only has 1. And when you think about what the Packers did in the draft and what they did at the trade deadline, basically standing pat, not giving any help on the offense or the defensive side of the ball at the trade deadline, they're saying, you know what, we're not going to put pressure to try to win now. We're still going to conserve our draft picks. We're going to conserve our money, and we're going to try to build for the future at some point when Aaron Rodgers leaves. So to me, there's not a bunch of pressure on the Packers. There's much more pressure on Aaron Rodgers to solidify his legacy as one of the best quarterbacks that has ever played this game.
That's interesting.
Yeah, B, it should be a lot, man. I'm sorry, but it seems like it feels like if they don't win the Super Bowl this year with Aaron Rodgers, the Aaron Rodgers-Packers relationship has run its course. Like, we got it. It's time for us to admit it. I said it before the season. I feel like it was a waste of talent. And you just talked about it. When you talk about being at the upper echelon of the pack, when you talk about the quarterbacks, the greatest of all time, you got to look at multiple Super Bowls. And for me, the organization hasn't done anything over the last 10 years to help this guy out. Again, this year in the draft, they draft a quarterback in the first round. Like, this makes no sense to me. When you think about Aaron Rodgers, and there was one point in time where we were talking about him going down as the greatest quarterback of all time, and he has 1 Super Bowl, I mean, man, that's a waste of talent. This relationship has run its course if they don't win this Super Bowl this year. Now, Aaron Rodgers, like, a lot of it is on him as well. But the Packers, they need to do a good job of finishing the season strong if they want to maintain this relationship, Nick.
So I think that you're both right in this regard. I think there's massive pressure on Aaron Rodgers every year that's left of what's left of his prime because he is a victim of his own talent and ability. If he does finish his career with 1 Super Bowl win and 1 appearance, I think people will say that's an underachievement. I know that's unfair, but I think that's how good of a player he is. But where Brian, I agree with him 1,000%, you took the words out of my mouth, is the Packers clearly don't look at this year as win now, must win, anything like it. Look at the other teams in the NFC, the other contenders, what they've done in the last 18 months. The Los Angeles Rams trade a boatload of picks for Jalen Ramsey, win right now. The Cardinals trade for DeAndre Hopkins. The Seattle Seahawks trade midseason for Carlos Dunlap, trade right before the season for Jamal Adams. Those teams are telling the world, we think we can win this moment. The Bucs, obviously. They sign Tom Brady. They trade up in the draft to get him protection. They sign Antonio Brown. They sign Gronk. Packers did nothing. They traded up to draft a player who is not even currently their backup quarterback. They're getting nothing from their second-round pick, nothing from their third-round pick. They made no moves at the deadline. They made no substantial additions in free agency. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year. And this offseason, what did they do? They went out and they stayed aggressive. They brought in Le'Veon Bell, right at the deadline. They draft a guy to help Mahomes and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They bring everybody back, find a way to work the money with Sammy Watkins, Chris Jones. They do all these things because we're trying to win this moment. The Steelers last year, when they lost their quarterback for the year, they still traded a pick to bring in Minkah Fitzpatrick because they're always trying to win. The Ravens signed Calais Campbell, among other people. I mean, I'm running out of teams. Everyone seems like they're trying to win right now that thinks they have a quarterback that can do it, except for the Packers. And so I think there's immense pressure on Aaron. I don't think the franchise feels like there's pressure on them because they have not acted accordingly.
But I'm going to ask Brian. Brian, do you think his legacy would move up a tier? Because it feels like he's like right there. To me, it's almost analogous to like Kevin Durant. Like the GOAT conversation is probably a little bit out of your reach, but you're right there. And whether or not you win a ring, like I don't count Super Bowl appearances, no offense, as like a big deal. You either win it or you don't. Like, oh, Russ got to a Super Bowl that he should have won and lost it. Does anyone like, he got to the, I don't know. I just don't care. Brees has got 1 ring. He's got 1 ring. I don't know if he winning another one or not affects anyone's view of him unless you see it differently.
Well, it absolutely affects people's
view. I know you love appearances,
really, the view that you're talking about is when you compare it to the best of the best. When you compare it to Peyton Manning, and when you compare it to Tom Brady, that's the comparison that you're talking about. You really can have the same conversation about Drew Brees. You won 1 Super Bowl. You're one of the best quarterbacks that the game has ever seen, and you've only won 1. Goodness for if the Chiefs actually only win 1 Super Bowl, the one that they won last year,
it's a
Nick
massive
Wright would
failure.
jump off the bridge.
It's
it would be absolutely a failure.
Yep.
The same thing that I would say for Aaron Rodgers. One of the most talented quarterbacks that we've seen, the ability to run the football, the ability to throw the ball on the run, to only win 1 Super Bowl in his career, it would be a shame.
And Wilds, you're right. The GOAT discussion is out of reach for Rodgers, just like it is for Durant. But you can still climb the mountain. Like the Durant thing, right now he's neck and neck with Larry Bird. Can he pass him? Could he one day pass Kobe? For Rodgers, he's neck and neck with Drew Brees. Could he pass him? Could he pass John Elway? Could he potentially pass Peyton Manning? I think that's probably too far, but some would argue. Like, there are different rungs up the ladder you're trying to reach. And right now, like, there's Big Ben's got 2, right? Now, I think Rodgers has had a better career than Big Ben, but y'all are giving him the MVP in an undefeated season, so maybe Big Ben moves up further. So, like, yeah, there's still rungs up the ladder Rodgers can get that he needs a Super Bowl to get there, Jenna.
Speaking of moving up and down, Nick's tiers are next. Guess who's now making a push towards the top? Just teased it. We're back after this.
All right, should have mentioned Favre. Some people think Favre.
An NFL tradition continues on Fox. Washington taking on Zeke and the Cowboys Thanksgiving Day 4 Eastern. It's only on Fox and the Fox Sports app. All right, back to Tampa and the fallout from another shaky performance from Tom Brady. Bucs lost to the Rams Monday. Brady had 2 costly interceptions, including one on Tampa's final drive. And that has sparked questions about this offense. Why isn't it working? Why does it stall in primetime games? Why not ask Bruce Arians? Here's the head coach on what seems to be plaguing Tom Brady.
I don't think it's a confidence problem whatsoever. It's just still it's not lack of trust. It's just lack of continuity within the offense of the whole picture. We've got the guys open. We just missed them. And there are times when coverage dictates you go to that guy. So I think we can do a better job of utilizing the deep ball in our game plan, more of or less of. So each and every week's so different. But when they're there, we need to hit them. We can't have them going off our fingertips, and we can't overthrow them. Other than the deep ball, I think he's getting confused a few times with coverage. That might be causing some inaccurate balls, but I don't see it at all in practice. We're not missing the deep ball in practice, that's for sure. So it's just a matter on Sundays hitting them.
So, Brandon, you buying this by Bruce Arians that Tom Brady's struggles are due to a lack of continuity in this offense?
100%. I think it's a few things. It's chemistry, it's continuity, and it's Tom Brady. When you think about the chemistry and continuity, go back to the first game against the Saints. And one of the picks that we all talked about, you had Mike Evans running a seam route down the middle of the field. Was supposed to be a seam route. He stops at 12. When you see cover 2 split safeties, you take the middle of the field. You have to keep running because the quarterback, especially when you're a big body wide receiver, he's going to throw it up in those moments. Mike Evans stops. He breaks his route off, thinking that he's covered because he saw the Mike taking the middle of the field. Tom Brady throws it. It's a pick. That's chemistry and continuity. You go to the first pick this last game, Monday Night Football. You have Chris Godwin. He takes the post. He throws his hands up. What does that signal to the wide receiver? What does that signal to everybody in the stands? We saw Randy Moss make a living off of throwing his hands up. Basically, what he's saying is, I'm not running the original route. I am going for the touchdown. That was a bad decision, obviously, by both of them. So that is chemistry and continuity. You have the quarterback holding the ball, not knowing what you're going to do. But Tom Brady wasn't supposed to let that ball go. He had pressure up the middle, and he still tried to force it, resulting in a turnover. Now you look at Tom Brady, and I talked about this yesterday. Tom Brady, Tua wouldn't make that mistake down the stretch. It is clearly one high. You have a seam route. You have your tight end running down the top of the numbers, and you throw the ball when he has 2 guys on you, and the safety, disguised in quarters, went to one high, overplayed it because he knew where you're going, and you throw a duck. That's a line drive ball. So I think it's a mixture of everything. Now, I want to shift really quickly to what they need to do to fix this offense, because they still have a chance. You heard Bruce Arians say it. Every week is different, but they need to get to where they thrive the most, and they need to create an identity that they can use and go into the playoffs. So here's 3 things that I want to focus on. Number 1, run the ball. Like, you ran the ball 18 times. You didn't bring Tom Brady in as an aging quarterback to throw it 40-something times or to throw it 350-something, go for 350 yards. That's not why you brought Tom Brady in. We know who Tom Brady is today. He is more than capable of leading you to a Super Bowl, but it needs to make sense. Run the ball 25 times at least. Number 2, counter the run game with waggle and play action. What is waggle? We keep talking about Tom Brady struggling when he has the pass rush. Well, when you're going against teams like the LA Rams, use waggle. That's a max protection. You can have so much on the outside with your big wide receivers. You can run 9-yard stops. Tom Brady throws that well. 18-yard stops, crossers, posts, if you want to throw it down the field. 20-yard in cuts. And guess what you have? You have a back that's going to chip. He's going to first protect, and then he's going to get out to the flat. No one ever covers the back. So utilize that. Play action always worked well for Tom Brady and the Patriots. The last thing is, play inside out. Edelman, you even have Gronkowski, Wes Welker, Amendola. Utilize AB inside and try to get something going there. Those three things, if you do that, I think this team is a contender, and they are the team that we thought they would be.
Yeah, so coach around the significant limitations of your quarterback. Those are the keys right there. If this week Aaron Rodgers got hurt and was going to miss 2 weeks, and I think Tim Boyle is the backup there because Jordan Love's third on the depth chart. You know what the keys for the Packers would be? Run the football, short intermediate passing, max protect, roll out Boyle, see if he can hit guys down the field. That's what you would do.
Brady should go.
And I say, here's another thought exercise for today's show. What is the contending team that has an immobile quarterback? What is the great quarterback in the league right now that can't avoid pressure? It's hard to find them because the league has changed, and Tom Brady, unfortunately for him, does not have the physical abilities and never did, but he was able to overcome them a million different ways to change with it. We can find certain interceptions that were not on Brady, but we can just as easily find turnovers that would have been on Brady had they happened. Meaning, in the game Monday night, he threw a pass to the end zone that was just flat dropped by the safety. He fumbled the ball in the end zone, would have been returned for a touchdown, but the refs inexplicably ruled it an incomplete pass. What happens every week, Brandon?
It's the National Football League.
What happens every week?
It's the National Football League. Mahomes had an interception dropped. The league changed 5 years ago. Tom Brady won 2 Super Bowls. What are you like? It sounds idiotic for you to sit up here and say that they can't get it done by doing what Tom Brady does well. It's like saying Aaron Donald, the best defensive lineman maybe ever. Aaron Donald, he's great. Let's put him out linebacker. Does that make much sense? Every quarterback don't play the position the same way. Lamar Jackson, create an offense that works well with his skill set. That's what we're saying here. We're not saying work around your quarterback. What we're saying is, actually, won't you do what he's done the last 10 years, 20 years to win 6 Super Bowls? In the last 5, 6 years, he's won 2 Super Bowls doing it this way. Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
Yeah. And he's not as good as he used to be. And to deny that is ridiculous. And
ridiculous.
We were not demanding.
I play with 18 quarterbacks. He's more than capable. I'll say this on national TV right now. When I got to the New York Jets, Ryan Fitzpatrick couldn't complete a 5-yard outcut. He couldn't complete the quick game. The ball was hit it in the dirt every single time, and he's still playing in National Football League. I played with Kyle Orton. I played with Chad Henning. I played with Tyler Thigpen. I can name 10 more quarterbacks. He is more than capable of getting it done.
Guess what all those guys have in common? They're all worse than Brady, and ain't none of them winning the Super Bowl this year either. So he is going to, what are we talking about? We're not talking about should he retire.
What we're talking about
is he Tyler Thigpen.
We're talking about.
I'm going to finish now. Brandon, I'm going to finish now. What we're talking about is the guy that 2 weeks ago in this offense,
he won 2 Super Bowls with his skill set.
That's great.
He won 2 Super Bowls with his skill set.
Brandon,
that's what we're talking about. He's won 2 Super Bowls with his skill set.
No,
he wasn't good when he won the last 2 Super Bowls, right? He wasn't good when he won the last 2 Super Bowls with this skill set. Did we see him throw the ball down the field the last 2 Super Bowls? No, we didn't. It was the same thing. Dink and dunk, dink and dunk. Edelman, where's Edelman? Start with Gronkowski. Is he open down the seam? No. Let me hit Edelman. Is Edelman open? No. Let me hit my running back. That's their offense, inside out. That's how he won his Super Bowls. So why can't he do it now? He's more than capable.
Well, maybe if that's what he wanted to do, he should have stayed with New England. Or maybe when he was hanging out with Byron Leftwich this offseason, he should have convinced them to change the offense. Or maybe a month ago when folks were arguing they're the Super Bowl favorite and he's an MVP candidate, these concerns should have been raised. They cannot only be raised when they lose and he plays bad. It can't always be someone else's fault. He threw those passes. He made those decisions.
That's right.
He fumbled
and
that
I
ball
talked
in the
about
end
it
zone.
yesterday. And I said it yesterday.
Yeah, and today.
And I said it yesterday. A lot of people said it.
Hey, it's Bruce Arians' fault. And
It's
today
not
it's
all one
Bruce Arians.
person.
Change
It's
the
not all-
offense.
It's not all one
Trade for
person.
Edelman.
There's 22 starters.
Okay.
What are you?
He's 43 years old. Maybe he's not good anymore.
I still love
right,
you, but he's more than capable.
Maybe he's not good anymore.
We've run out of show. We will discuss this further tomorrow, maybe on Undisputed coming up. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. We will see you tomorrow. Awesome.